has to do with Jaden Ivey and kind of like your takeaways this season with just kind of like the situation this year because, he was starting off last year. He's been coming off the bench. I kind of have my take with it, but I'd love to hear like your takeaway because obviously you're with the team almost every day.
So it's a complicated one to me. Not complicated. It's complicated to describe like my thoughts on it. But I'll try my best. And I know I'm gonna try to tread lightly because there's so many Ivy people, and rightfully so, really like Ivy, as do I. I understood what Monty's approach was to start the year. Like there were things that Jaden needed to get better at, right? I do think that tough love went on too long. And it might have like seeped into like, I don't want to say confidence, but like rhythm. I don't like questioning guys' confidence or like I don't like going into the mental space. I don't get paid enough money for that, right? Like that's sensitive stuff. But in terms of rhythm, I think it went on too long. But what I will also say is you see the stuff like one thing Monty really can't stand is guys who foul jump shooters. And you see Jaden do that more than anybody, right? And he trusts, I think he really likes Jaden and sees a lot in him. But there is a tough love there. Like the turnovers against where were we at last night?
Golden State.
Against the Warriors. Like
yeah.
Those were some rough turnovers, right?
Yeah.
and it's there. So I understand like there are things that he needed to improve, and it's going to be a continuous improvement. He's very young. He's very talented. But I think in Jaden's defense, I think it just like went on too long. And there was just a point in this season where it was like the guys in front of him, I don't understand why they're playing over him. And it's like just talent alone, Jaden should be playing significant minutes. And then aside from that, the minutes that guys ahead of him were getting, like Jaden's part of your future. Some of those other guys weren't. So, but I also do think like there are things he really needs to improve on, and he'll be the first to tell you that, right? Like I think fans got caught up in last season because they got to see a lot of him and he was a lot of fun. But like at the end of the day, he was the second best player on a team that won 17 games. Like there's a lot of things that needed to go. Like he needs to continue to improve. And I had no issue with Monty's tough love early on, but I think it went way too long. And then you look up and there's certain guys that are playing significant more minutes to him that aren't contributing in the same way. And I just think it like I said, I think it should have been. I think maybe I don't want to say like swallowed his pride because I don't necessarily know if it was like tough love, like he's kind of danced around that and said he's given tough love to other guys. But I just think like at a point he just needed to probably throw Jaden out there and just help him build that rhythm back up and just see what happens and just let it go because obviously the alternatives weren't working for him.
Yeah, I would say like my takeaway was the message just wasn't. It felt like it was directed towards him, and obviously, like you said,
That's
tough
fair.
love, and I think there was some tough love there, but at the same time, like you could kind of see like the confidence isn't the same. It reminds me so much of when Stanley Johnson was here, and Stan Van Gundy used to do the same thing. And I think it's just a veteran thing to do. You rip out a young guy, and you tell him like, "Well, this is why I'm taking you out. You made turnovers. Like, they'll do it again next time you're out there." But I think over time, like it does mess with your psyche a little bit because, like, if I do make a mistake, I'm gonna get ripped out, and then like you don't play as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. But I think the issue I keep coming back to is if I'm Ivy and I'm not playing the big minutes, but I'm seeing who is playing 30 minutes and like that's like tough to right. Like for all the good that like the Killians and the Burks, like Killian doesn't turn the ball over. Okay, I understand why he's playing next to Kate, right? Burks, he's a career scorer. He's going through a tough spell. I understand why, like you're hoping he gets out of this, but if you're Ivy, it's like, well, neither one of these guys are putting the ball in the basket. We can't score. Like, why am I not getting my opportunities? And it's more so like if Burks was how Burks has been the last few weeks, all season and he's playing over Ivey, like, I get it for a team that's trying to win, but that just wasn't the case, right? Like, Killian and Burks were struggling. So that's kind of where it lost me at that point.
I think with Burks, I understand it because what you said, he's a career, like 38% 3-point shooter. You understand that. Yeah. I think with Killian's case and what I've been trying to tell people that, watch this podcast is Killian's the only player maybe outside of Cade that actually plays the 0.5 offense in which it was intended, because Killian makes hasn't lately, but this season he's made like really clear, concise passes in like under a second. And I think when you watch this team a lot, the ball doesn't move side to side, but Killian tries to make the ball move. He tries to make those 0.5 decisions that, Monty always talks about. Yeah,
I think that's fair. Yes, I think lately he's maybe over dribbled a little bit, but early on you understood, like you. I always tell people this, the fans that have an issue with Killian. I understand why coaches like him because he doesn't turn the ball over and he competes defensively, right? Like you understand why coaches like him, but in 2023 at the guard position, you got to be able to put the ball in the bucket.
Yeah,
you have to.
Yeah, it's 5 versus 4.
And he's had flashes, right? They've just been flashes.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, he could be Elfrid Payton if he could score. Like, that could be his ceiling. Like, just a backup point guard throughout his career. But he's got to score.
He's still young. Maybe he figures it out. But I think it's really tough when you can't shoot when the 3 ball's not falling and you're not getting to the rim. I don't know if you can make a full career at the mid-range unless you're shooting like over 55% for your career.
Yeah, when he's not hitting the mid-range, it's really glaring, like out there, which it's just like to the point where it's just like I wouldn't be surprised if they extended him. Like, I would not be surprised.
I know that they were very far off on extension talks in October. And I will say that, how do I say this? If Monty was not hired, I wouldn't be surprised if Killian was somewhere else right now.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Monty likes big guards.
Yeah, I mean, he loved Ricky Rubio.
Mm-hmm.
He probably loves the way, Killian can defend and pass. So it makes sense. Like, if you have Kevin Ollie on this team, maybe Killian Hayes isn't a part of this team or whoever.
I think that's a fair assumption. Yeah. Yep.
For sure.